So now technically, Big Brother ZBrush has render passes, and I probably should have mentioned this before now. Let me go ahead and show you. So if you go to my YouTube channel, I have an Intro to ZBrush, and this is the big ZBrush version. Intro to ZBrush Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. It's also on my Gumroad, and it's also on my QBrush, and I imagine when I finish this demo, I'm going to throw them in those exact same spots. But basically, there's a lot of ways to render in ZBrush. In ZBrush Core, it's not really set up for rendering. It's more of a, you can render in Keyshot. So when we go up here eventually to render, external render, we can throw this into Keyshot and do some rendering. But there's also some ZBrush BPR rendering you can get away with. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of that. So we don't have, under our renderer, we don't have render passes that we can do. We don't have a texture grab doc, but we do have a document export. So let's give that a shot. So with this sitting here and I do a BPR render, I'm going to go to document export, and that's going to export this as a PSD. So that's just going to go in my demo folder, which is fine. I'm going to put a new folder in here and we'll just go render. And let's save that as ZBrush document, that's fine. So if I go in here and open up Photoshop, double tap to open, I'm going to go to my program files, Pixologic, ZBrush Core, Z Projects, demo, render. Now we got our ZBrush document. So here's our document. And let's say I want to do some render layers in order to get this render even nicer. So what I'm going to do is I can break this image down. One thing you're going to not want to do is rotate around, because once you do that, there's no, I don't see a zap link or I don't see a movie thing to go ahead and save your camera view. One thing you can do is you can go File, Save As, and we can do demo. Instead of just doing Core, I'll do Core Camera 01. So now whenever I open up ZBrush, it'll always be exactly there. In fact, if I go to my comma key and we go to project, let's just load in a ZBrush sphere, and then we'll go back, we'll hit comma key, we'll go to project, we'll go to demo, and we'll load up Core Camera 1, and it'll be right back where we placed it. So that's kind of one way to get around that camera thing. So what we're going to do, now we have a camera view saved, kind of, let's go ahead and just do a BPR render. And again, I'm just going to very quickly do documents, export, render, and we'll name this one. This time we'll do full render. Now we're going to do another render where I'm going to turn shadows off and hit BPR. Export this, and we'll do no shadows. Now if I want to just have those shadows, let's see if we can do that. Let's do a flat color. I'm going to go up here, I'm going to hold down Shift and turn off that paintbrush, and that's going to turn off colorize for all of our objects here, just by holding down Shift. Let's go to a white color and hit render. And we'll also go over here and we'll turn shadows back on. So with a flat color, hopefully this will just grab just the shadow information. And then in Photoshop, we can just multiply this as our shadow pass. It didn't do that, but it did give us a ground shadow. So let's go ahead and grab that. We'll call this ground shadow. And let's try another material here. Because we have colorize turned off, we can actually change the color of any of this stuff. But let's go ahead and go to matte cap white and render. And this one is kind of a shadow pass. It gives us our ground shadow too. If we don't want that, we can turn out the floor. If we've already got the ground shadow captured, turn your floor off. And you can use this one. Just trying to think of a very, very white material that's just going to capture the shadow information. And I think, I want to say matte cap white will be that one. So let's go ahead and just do it. I'm going to dock this document over here so I can go to export. And now on this one, if we turn off AO and we go to matte cap white cavity, let's see what that gives us. This might be kind of like an AO render that we might be able to multiply over. Who knows? We'll just call this cavity. Now, if we want to break every single one of these subtools into a different selection that we can do in Photoshop, what we need to do is we'll go back to flat color, and temporarily I'm going to tap these that have noise on them and just turn that noise off so we're not getting any color gradients in there. I'm going to go back through all of these, and I'm going to turn on RGB, and I'm going to go just to a red color, and I'm going to go to, where's my color menu? Don't need light, don't need material, don't need render. Let's do color. RGB selected, we'll do color fill, and we'll choose another color. I'll just work my way around. I'll go fill, and you know what? Let's do mRGB with flat color. Let's see how that does. So red, fill object, and then yellow, orangish, fill object. And then for the stem, we'll do green, fill object. For the leaf, we'll do cyan, fill object. For the worm, we'll start doing like that color blue. For the eyeballs, we'll do dark blue, purple, glasses, we're working our way around to magenta. Okay, that's all of them. So now if I go back to render, and I'll go ahead and dock this back over here. Shadows are off. We have our SPIX strength, so if I hit BPR, that'll just give me a nice alias look. Looks like this orange is kind of coming through. Turn off noise. There we go. So we have a nice, what we would call like a clown pass or a material ID pass. So I'm just going to go to Document, Export, and we'll call this Matte ID. And one more. I'm going to hold down Shift again. I'm going to turn off Colorize for all this stuff. I'm going to choose something that's got a nice kind of a tight, let's do blend. I'm going to make the color black, and now we're going to do a lighting pass. So this time we're going to go grab our light menu here, and I'm going to turn off everything but one light. So I just got one light to worry about here. I'm going to select this light, and now I can move this light around. I'm going to crank that intensity to like 2. I'm going to tap it once, and I'm just going to try and set up like an interesting rim light that I can overlay onto the final render and see if that'll help. And if it doesn't, it's not a huge deal. You'll get what I'm getting at. Let's crank that up. Since I don't have material settings to kind of tighten up the rim light, I'm just going to kind of crank that up. So we have a black surface with just lighting information. And you know what? I don't even need this to be colored because I can do that in Photoshop. So I'm just getting some lighting information. If I want to, I can turn shadows on. And that way I'm not getting rim lights where I shouldn't have. And once I do that, I'm going to go to File, Document, Export. We'll call this Lighting 01. Let's go back into Photoshop here.